Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, and you don't have to be that comprehensive on these. What do you think what do you think the total liabilities, if we look at the FHA loan portfolio right now? Where are we at?
On a net balance sheet basis, the FHA fund, if we were to value it in a traditional way we would value a company or insurance fund, the latest estimates are that the value is just north of $30 billion. So that would mean our assets outweigh our liabilities by in the range of $32 billion.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, internally when your team sets up the actuarial standards of what you should have set aside, what range should you be in?
By Congress's standards, we are required to have a standard where we should be above 2% of our outstanding portfolio in the fund. So that is the standard that is set, and that's significantly higher than you would see in the private sector typically for what the standards are for capital with similar kinds of loans.
Mr. Secretary, that 2%, it was 2 or 2.5?
2%.
2% would be how much?
I don't have in front of me the total assets.
But it would be dramatically greater.
It would be higher than we currently hold in our what we call excess reserves. The $32 billion that I referred to is our total reserves. Mm-hmm. The portion that is so-called excess reserves above and beyond what we need are predicted to meet our current liabilities are in the range of about $7 billion today. Okay. And that is below the 2% standard at this point.
All right. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, in that, let's call it the $32 billion in reserves, does that also encumbered by the number of units that have been foreclosed on that HUD is holding either title to? And
that includes all the potential liabilities, not just current liabilities, but also projected losses on every loan that we've made to date.
You beat me where I was going. Take all the fun out of it. How many units do you think you hold right now, Mr. Secretary?
How many units of foreclosed?
Yes.
It's in the tens of thousands. I bet if the smart folks behind me give me 2 minutes, I could get you the exact figure.
If anyone has a guess, just yell it out.
I think it's in the 70 to 80,000 range.
Okay. And as we keep talking about housing policy and some of the mechanics, how do those, let's just say it's 70,000 single family or condo units that you're holding right now, that you're marketing, that you're selling. How does that fit into some of your other housing policies? Is it just you're going to sell them and refund, put the capital back in? What are you doing with those?
Typically what we do is market those and sell them at market price. There are targeted neighborhoods that are particularly distressed where the prices that we would get typically don't support rehabilitating and keeping those properties in decent condition. So there are targeted examples where we would discount those prices in order to get a commitment from whether it's a private sector group or a public sector group, a nonprofit group, to fix up that house and to sell it, say, it may be to a first-time home buyer or in a way that contributes to revitalization of that neighborhood.
And Mr. Secretary, in that concept, I would also encourage you to consider even just a speculator or a family that gets together that's willing to spend money and fix it up because it provides cash at the local Home Depot and jobs and those things, but also fix up also that vacant house that sits next door to you for sometimes for months and months and sometimes a year. If you're holding 70,000 housing units, one of my great concerns when I'm being from the Phoenix area, and I know that's one of the areas you hold a lot of product in, is as long as those houses are on the market, my market never comes back. We have to consume a big portion of this inventory. Does that at least fit into your policy of pushing this dead inventory through?
Yeah. It does, and particularly in targeted neighborhoods, as I talked about, where there have been significant number of foreclosures. I will say that we actually don't hold a great deal of property through FHA in Arizona because, frankly, we continued to lend 30-year fixed rate safe mortgage products during the housing bubble, and our market share shrank to almost zero in states like Arizona, California, Nevada, and Florida. But this is where I think the neighborhood stabilization program that we talked about before is so important. The discussion tomorrow is about the third round of neighborhood stabilization funding. We've already obligated 100% of the first $6 billion that we had. We have the additional $1 billion, which should be fully obligated by the end of the month, this month, and that funding can go to help buy up and renovate vacant properties, foreclosed properties, and we particularly targeted it in the third round to communities like Arizona, where they'd been particularly hard hit by the crisis.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry to go over time.